so welcome everybody. Thank you for taking the time to be here today. My speech today is going to be about hand washing and the importance of hand washing. So have any of you ever had a cold or the flu? Yeah, I see some heads. We all have, right? And it really sucks, doesn't it, having the flu? Well, one of the things that you can do to reduce your chances of getting the cold or the flu is to wash your hands. The Center for Disease Control says that's the very first thing that we can do to defend ourselves against getting the common cold or flu. So what we need to understand is why it's important, when we should be washing our hands, and how to properly wash our hands, because there is a technique for washing our hands. What I'd like to start with is a couple of statistics for you. The American Society of Microbiology held a couple of observational studies, and one of the things that they found is that 97% of females and 92% of males claim to wash their hands. That when they were observing participants in this particular study, they actually found out that only 75% of females actually did wash their hands, and only 58% of males did. That number is really low if you think about it. In another study that they conducted, they polled middle and high school students. And the students claimed, 50% of the students claimed that they wash their hands at school, but only 33% of the females, and a strikingly very low 8% of males who wash their hands actually use soap. So without using soap, you're not doing any good. In another study conducted by the Minnesota Department of Health, they had done 3 observational studies, and they went to different events in the area. In 2003, they went to the Back to the 50s car show, and there they observed that 64% of females wash their hands, and 30% of males wash their hands. In 2003, they found at the state fair that 65% of females wash their hands, and 39% of males wash their hands. The third study that they did was at the 2004 State Fair, where 75% of females wash their hands, and 51% of males wash their hands. Now, this is actually nice in a one-year period to have the statistics go up so high, and that was because they actually, in 2004, implemented a hand-washing campaign. So obviously, the technique worked for them. So E. coli, salmonella, and other bacteria can live on wooden surfaces, on keyboards, on doorknobs for up to 2 hours after they've been placed there by somebody else's hands. And now 80% of these bacteria and viruses are transmitted by touch. Right? So when should we wash our hands? If 80% of the bacteria is transmitted by touch, we're using our hands, right? So when should we be washing our hands? Well, the CDC says that we should be washing our hands before we prepare food, before we eat, right? So before we have breakfast, lunch, and dinner, we should be going in there washing our hands, because we're putting our hands up to our mouth. Before inserting or removing our contacts, right? Because I know that one of you in this room just had an eye infection, and that could be if you had washed your hands properly, you wouldn't have had that, right? So before we touch our eyes, we want to make sure we wash our hands. We want to make sure we wash our hands before we treat any wounds. So if you have a cut or anything like that, you want to make sure wash your hands before, wash your hands after too. And you also want to wash your hands before or after helping somebody who's sick, because that's going to be very important in keeping yourself and them healthy. So when should we wash our hands after we perform anything? Well, after we use the toilet is probably one of the most important things we can do in helping prevent contamination, especially, you don't want to go to the bathroom, go and eat dinner, right? Ugh, gross. After you blow your nose, after you sneeze, a good technique for sneezing is to sneeze in your sleeve. All of you are taught that at school, right? So that's a good technique. You also want to make sure you wash your hands after changing a baby's diaper. You don't Again, you spin using the toilet. You want to make sure that you get that done. So how should we wash your hands? So we've talked a lot about, when you should do it, before, after, but how should you do it? And it's actually very important to know what the proper techniques to washing your hands are. So the very first technique is obviously is to turn the water on. So you're going to turn your water on, and you're going to wet your hands first. And one thing you can do is always point your fingers down, because any germs, bacteria that live on your hands, when you point your hands down, they will actually run down the drain. Okay, so you're going to wet your hands, and then you apply your soap. You want enough soap so that you can lather it really good. When you lather your hands, you want to interlace your fingers. You want to make sure that you rub vigorously, right? Fast, and you want to make sure that you get off your wrists. You want to make sure that you get your fingernails, so you're going to wash under your fingernails like this. And one of the things that they recommend now is that you sing the happy birthday song, right? Yeah. So you sing it. You want to wash your hands for at least 20 seconds to make sure that you can get all of those germs. If you're wearing rings, you want to make sure you move it around just a little bit to get under the rings too. After you've lathered and rubbed vigorously, you're going to rinse the water, right? Same downward motion with your hands, keeping your hands pointing down. And after you rinse, you're going to just shake them off, grab a paper towel or your towel, wipe your hands. You're going to throw that paper towel away. You're going to grab a new paper towel to shut off the sink. Because how did you start? What was the first thing that you did when you began washing your hands? You took your dirty hands to turn on the water, right? So you want to shut it off using a paper towel so that you don't get any more germs on your hands. You can also use a paper towel to open up the door. So if you go to Walmart or you're at the mall, you can use that paper towel to open up the bathroom door. So if soap and water are not available, one of the alternatives is antibacterial sanitizer. I know I've given all of you guys a little sanitizer to have on your backpack. So that's one of the things that you can do, is there's no soap and water, you can sanitize your hands using the sanitizer. And again, it's the same sort of motion. It's going to squirt enough to make sure you can cover both of your hands, both of your wrists, and you want to make sure you do that for about 25 seconds. So it's not just squirt, it's squirt and then 25 seconds. So again, if you sing happy birthday while you're doing it, you'll be more likely to kill those bacteria. If hand sanitizer is not available, and you want to make sure, by the way, that hand sanitizer is at least 60% alcohol, because if you don't, then it's really wasting your time as far as the sanitizing. It won't be effective. But if water's not available, hand sanitizer is not available, you can also use Sandy wipes. Anybody heard of that? You're around babies, you've heard of Sandy wipes. And so you can use a Sandy wipe, same concept. 25 seconds. You want to make sure you wipe all around your hands. You want to make sure you wipe between your fingers to make sure that you kill as many of the bacteria as you can. So hand washing is the single most important thing that we can do to prevent common colds and the flu. None of us like to suffer with a flu or a cold. It's just horrible, right? Oh, who wants that? So knowing why it's so important, knowing when to wash, and knowing how to wash is going to help you to stay healthy and strong all flu season long. Thank you.